Okay, so welcome, sisters, and I'm really grateful to be hosting today. This time of year is a really special time, and I've been celebrating it that way for about 20 years now. Let go of the Halloween ghouls and goblins and really understood the basic reason that this time of year is considered the thinning of the veils. And it's traditionally been that for thousands of years. And, now we have Samhain, which is the Celtic name for this time, and then the Day of the Dead celebrations that are very powerful in Mexico and celebrated here, certainly in San Diego area and probably many others. Oh, here's somebody coming in. Hello. All right. Hello, welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I was just mentioning that this is a really special time because it's the time of the thinning of the veils. And I've been to Long Barrows, where some of the earlier folks in Great Britain anyway would go at this time. The bones of their ancestors were in these long barrows. You could walk in them, and they were meant that you could tell that people did ceremonies because there's a circle at the very end. And the reason that people did this is to be close to their ancestors and to feel the love and the wisdom. They sought guidance from their ancestors. Unfortunately, some of the influences of trying to scare people, they developed all of these morality plays with skeletons and scary beings and so on, but that was not the original reason that we celebrated this time. So thinning of the veils is a time when the seen and unseen world it's easier to get that close to your ancestors and to guides. And everyone was very happy to be with their ancestors the way they do in the Day of the Dead. If you've ever seen the grave sites, and they decorate them with marigolds and have their favorite foods for their ancestors and things like that. So it's a very special time. So what I thought is we could just take a moment, take a deep breath, and I'm going to take my glasses off, and maybe just close your eyes and just take a breath in and settle your body. And I invite you to feel the fields of good within this sacred ground of sovereignty, and to notice the gentle cocoon around us. And it's filled with safety, love, and generosity. Let us welcome our guides and ancestors and all who join in supporting our work. And this circle is set and is filled with magnificence, intelligence, generosity, clarity, and abundance. All right, so we're not yet on our journey, so come back. So let's begin with our names, where we are located, along with what we would like to put in the circle today. I welcome whoever would like to go first, and then we'll tag. So does anybody want to be the first to speak? And then each of you will tag someone. All right, Sue.
I'm Sue. I'm in Issaquah, Washington. We had 2 days of absolutely warm sunshine. It was fabulous. Okay, we're back to Washington. Weather, it's overcast. It sprinkles every now and then. Wind howls every now and then. It's just a normal day. And I've been, for the last week, working, really exploring, researching trauma, the effects of trauma, what it does to the brain, what it does to the body. And I was just listening to a doctor scientist who calls it bullshit therapy. He just is so disgusted how doctors rely on drugs, and drugs heal no one. So he's interesting to listen to because he's so unprofessional. He even has bad posture. But he doesn't say anything he can't back up with science and with proof. So it's been very interesting. And I want to put trauma into our circle. The healing of trauma, the releasing of trauma, the forgiving of trauma into our circle. And I'll call on Angelique.
Thank you, Sue. Hello, everyone from the Netherlands again. It sounds like, you know, like a program, a talking program for every week, which it is not, of course, but it sounds so crazy. So, Sue, this is very interesting what you're sharing, because I have done the same over the past week, working with trauma and writing about trauma, and deepening the insights from long ago and from now, and weaving them together. And yesterday, it is beautiful to share this because we are with our ancestors now, very closely. And yesterday we were visiting, Robert and I and Milan, my youngest son, the Frida Kahlo exposition in the Netherlands, in Drenthe. And it was amazing. It's beyond words for me. Her work and her way of living and what she shares is incredible for me anyway. And we were going to a friend of mine who is working as a witch in the Netherlands. She has a witch practice and she does beautiful work. And we were honoring our ancestors with the food and what we shared. And we were going back to our own home, and it's a 3 hours drive, and we were leaving at 7 p.m. And then all of a sudden we had a cloud burst. Do you call that a cloud burst? Mm-hmm. And an incredibly violent storm altogether. And it was so heavy, or the rain was so heavy, it was like with every wind coming, there was like buckets of water pouring out over the car, and we couldn't see anything anymore. So it was very dangerous, and I was praying to my ancestors, really. And we were guided to a place next to the road where we could wait until we could drive further, and the rain had stopped a little bit, and then we could go home. But this morning I saw in the newspaper on television that, because I wanted to know what happened in that part of the Netherlands, and there were whole villages underwater, you know, like half a meter or something. Incredible. So you were really, really saved by the ancestors, is what I feel. And I really thanked them this morning as well again. So it was an incredible adventure. And at the same time, being at Frida's exhibition with all the honoring of the dead, what she paints and how she experienced that. And yeah, it was very much in synchronicity. So yeah, I'm grateful. Thank you. And I go to Cinda.
Cinda Lonsway here. I'm currently in Stevenson, Washington, and usually in Portland. And I'd like to bring in soul integration. Thank you, Sharon. And funny also, today, 11/1, is the anniversary of my book, which is called I Know Now, A Woman Trauma or Violence to Victory, Trauma to Truth. And so I have been swimming in that memory and that celebration of and how far I've come with trauma, and working with Sharon's soul integration to sort of do one more round of healing around that. And it's just crazy. It's all so amazing. So I'd like to bring Linda, one person into the group, one person over here, and not to mix them with these four, but then they can go into the same pot. But I want to keep them separate until they go in there. Thank you. And I will call on Audrey.
Hi, Jeeps. I have a story to tell you. So I packaged up 3 of my books, one for my therapist and 2 for my editors, one for each of my editors. I don't know if I don't think I told you this, but I wrapped them up and I was going to go to my local post office, timed it just perfectly, so I thought, and the post office was closed. And then I had to drive to meet my friend. So I went to a town I used to live in to mail these books. And I never mailed them before. So I'm asking the post lady, like, how do I do this? Is this the right way? And I said, oh, it's a book I wrote. And she's like, what is it about? So I said, oh, it's just about, surviving trauma. And she says, oh, no, I didn't say surviving. I said, healing from abuse is what I said. And she said, oh, I'm a survivor. And she says, oh, but I never told anybody. I said, what? She says, you're the first person I've told. And she went on to say, no, she's older. I'm 55. She's older than me. She was 10 when this happened. And she never told anybody. And here she was telling her story to me. And I was like, oh, I felt so honored. And I felt, oh my gosh, what do I say to her? And I just said, do you want me to get Joe? I'll give you my book. She's like, can't do that. She says, I said, well, I'll give you my card. She's like, no. I said, how about a hug? I said, how about a hug? And she said, I'll take a hug. So it was like, oh crap. Like, wow. All those years never opened up to anybody. And here I was, and there she was. And it was like, I think I was in shock a little after, but it was such a beautiful moment. And I'm thinking, oh, let this open up to healing for her more and more and more. More and more. So in the circle tonight, I'm bringing in more healing for those who need it, whichever way they need it. And yeah. And I'm complete. I'd like to tag Deborah.
Thank you, Audrey. What a testimony to the power of your book. That she just had it in her presence and it opened her up. Let's see. I guess one thing I just wanted to bring in peace. And weird thing last week, it was a week ago Sunday, I was at a Macy's and I was looking at pots to buy. Our daughter wanted a set of cooking pots for her birthday. So I was looking at different ones. And someone tapped me on my shoulder, and it was the shoulder where my purse is. And I kind of looked, a gentle tap. And I looked over and there were these 4 people, young people walking by, early 20s. And they said something I didn't quite catch. I said, what? And they said, shooter in the mall, run. And I hadn't heard anything, but I'm like, okay, I'm headed out the nearest door. As I go by the customer service place, there's more people going towards the door quickly. This guy in line said, what's going on? And I said, I heard that there's a shooter in the mall, get out. The lady at the desk immediately said, drop your stuff where you are. It'll be here when you come back. That's the nearest door. Well-trained, very well-trained. Went out, got in the car. My husband was out in the car waiting for me. And there's 2 ways to go. And one way I could tell it was going to get backed up more. And it was the closest way to 40. I said, that's a danger one. So I went this other way that goes farther around the mall, outskirts, but farther away from everything. And we ended up slowed down at one point where all these police cars came between us and the mall. So there were like 6 police cars and an ambulance. So I felt very well protected. And the whole time I was just like, okay, it's all going to be fine. It turns out there was an altercation in the food court, a fight, and somebody pulled a gun. They did not shoot it, but there was a broomstick that hit a table very loudly. I don't know if somebody was trying to defend themselves, and they thought it was a gunshot. And then people turned over tables to duck behind. So it's lots of loud bangs. So 2 people, I guess 4 people were injured, 2 in the fight itself and 2 rushing to get out, but nobody was badly injured. Well, that was Sunday. Tuesday, my girlfriend in Idaho posted on Facebook that she had been at a store across from the mall in Boise getting food for their new doggie. And when she went out, there were all these people rushing out, and they said, what's going on? And they said, shooter in the mall. And the shooting was in Macy's, and I had been in Macy's. And that we should be from North Carolina to Idaho doing, being on the periphery and safe, but was just very odd. So I just kept working on all of the anger and rage and violence that's running around in people. So I just want to bring in peace. Thank you. And Sharon, I guess you haven't gone. I'll tag Sharon.
Okay, yeah, Sharon here. Woodby Island. Got my yard kind of put together for winter, which is good. I did something different than I've ever done in sitting quietly with spirit. And I did it because of the shift that I think we've made galactically, but also just a new calling. And that is I sat with my ancestors yesterday, my true ancestors, my like lineage ancestors, not my galactic ancestors. And what they called for is I just brought them all, collapse time and have them all there. And what they asked for is to all of them to be brought into that healing space, empowerment space that we live in now, because that's why they did what they did, so that we could find a time when we would bring back who we are and all of that, and be able to collapse what is the truth about us. So that's interesting. So I guess I'm going to bring into the circle, ancestors to be in alignment with the healing we hold for ourselves and our family in this present moment. I think, are we bringing numbers into the circle? So I'm bringing in 12. And let's see, has everyone gone now? Except for you, Linda. Back to you, Linda.
So I'm Linda Savage. I'm in North County, San Diego, so just above San Diego. We're getting mixed weather, but we're probably a warmer temperature in general than a lot of the more northerly places, and I appreciate that. And I want to bring compassion for the self, ourselves. It's where love really starts. It's having self-compassion. Yeah.
Linda, I forgot to bring in my quality, and that's gratitude for the ancestors.
Thank you. Thank
And
you.
I want to bring in 9 people, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda, I'd like to bring in 9 people too, please.
Okay. Anyone else?
I'll bring in
8
50
people.
Okay. And I'm going to bring in 7. Is there anyone else that wants to bring in a number? All right. So we're going to begin our journey part. And so everybody relax, get comfortable. You can take glasses off like I just did. And when you go in, you can please mute yourself, but also if you want to turn off the video, we'll return when everybody feels ready, Okay. So take a deep breath and drop in. Feel your body really relax in. And we invite the beings of light to help us journey across dimensions and take us where we need to go. Your guides, your teams, ask them to be with you, showing us what we need to see. And we will bring this back to share with our sisters. So we will share the wisdom that we receive, and each of us has our own unique note and adds to the harmony. So here we go. Welcome back. So as always, whoever wants to volunteer to go first, and then from then on, we'll tag the next person.
I'll go first this time. What I was met with again, the ancestral female lineage for me, and what they wanted to say, how they wanted to partner now. So I think this is just beginning of not only my ancestry, but Mother Gaia speaking a little bit more often and regularly. It's like the mission has shifted from emphasis on the galactic, which was important in the ancient ones, which isn't still important, but now like Gaia's in charge. She's in charge of something, and that's where I was led. Cinda.
What was really interesting is I wasn't quite sure where I would go or how hard I wanted to work at it, but I just closed my eyes and sat there, and then pretty soon I was guided to some family members who are kind of not behaving themselves lately. And I just went, oh, right, I know what to do. Deep six, your ass. Deep six, your ass. Deep six, your ass. I was just literally taken from one place to the other, to the other, to the other. And I was just doing deep six. And when I would get ready to float off, if they felt like I needed to do it more, they'd pull me back, and I'd sit there and I would deep six, take and transform, deep six, take and transform. And it was really interesting, all the places I was taken. And yeah, I was even shown people who, I mean, Karen or Sharon, excuse me, I think I might have a question for you around this. I was shown or brought to like the foot of someone who in my mind is in a really good place, and in my mind isn't influenced by any outsider energy. And I did a deep six anyway, because maybe there's something there that I don't know, and but it's not outwardly. And the majority of them were women, so I wondered if they might not have been victims to it, and that if the deep six takes care of the victimhood as well as just those who are the perpetrators. So, but that was just really beautiful where I was taken and how I was just bloop, 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 bloop. It was lovely. So thank you, Linda, for giving us this opportunity, and I will call on Angelique.
Thank you. Thank you, Cinda. My team brings me into a Zen garden, a silent, quiet place of peace. There's a circle on the ground of little pebbles, and in the center, a place to sit and connect with all elements and directions. And my ancestors are inviting me and calling for me. They invite me to go and sit. And as soon as I sit, I feel I'm deeply rooted into the earth as well as into the higher realms. A zooming starts entering my head, and the color of radiant blue is there with the sound altogether. I'm invited to travel on the sound and the light. And here I go right into space, holding connection with the roots at both sides. I travel far and fast, and my team is guiding me along 7 worlds where I am invited to have entrance as soon as I feel like entering. The worlds look transparent and fast at the same time. For some of the worlds, I go too fast. However, I stop in the orange, the green, the blue, and the purple one. They all have a same like message to mention. It is keep holding space for your sacred space and spread this word everywhere. Keep holding space for your sacred space. I glide into a very soft and transparent substance which forms around me and my sacred space. And I'm feeling I have to go back into the Zen garden. And there is a silver line on which I can glide back. And I feel connected and protected by my ancestors. Thank you. And I go to Deborah.
Thank you, Angelique. The last couple of days, I've been trying to go back to where my hip problems originated to try and heal it because it's getting worse and worse, and I'm getting closer to a unwanted hip replacement. So I'm doing everything I can not to have a hip replacement. And the woman that had been coming to me before came to take me back. And this time we went to some place like Machu Picchu or, someplace where they sacrificed virgins and threw them off the cliffs. And I was a sacrifice that day. And I didn't end up in the lava flow or the bottom of the whatever. I landed on a ledge and broke my hip. And that lifetime just had a miserable death and stayed there. But in this one, the lady came down and was with me, and they called the women of the group and they rescued me. They put down vine ladders and took me up and healed it. And I taught them how to get rid of the outsiders from their village, which is why the men were doing all this stuff in the first place, to try and heal it. But I think it gets to some of the time when I get around men who are in places of authority that I have the thought sometimes that they're stupid and don't know what they're doing. I think it came back from that one. It's like a stupid person throwing people over the cliff isn't going to solve anything. Anyway, so taught the women how to deal with the outsiders, and then came back. So we'll see if that helps my hip in this lifetime. She said, hopefully. And I have to tell this story that my granddaughters have been staying with us during the week. Their parents work at the Renaissance Fair, and then they come back during the week. They normally live in Texas, but they're here. And they had told me about the Kaifu Kari monster that comes and visits them and kind of makes them act silly and stupid and do things and energetically wise that their parents don't like. And we were sitting at the dinner table, and the 3-year-old started it and the 7-year-old finished it. And she started with the Kaifu Kari was making her take off the shoes, and she didn't want to. And could I make it go away? And Eleanor said, and it lives on another planet, and you need to help me make it go away. And the 7-year-old chimed in stuff too. So I said, oh, okay. So after dinner, we'll deal with that. So we went and learned how to do it. And they said, well, it's also back at the big house, their house in Texas. I said, well, we can do that too. So we did that too. And they said, and how about, and I said, how about the little house, which is what they call their trailer that they live in when they go to the fairs. So we did that. So things after that settled down. Kaifukiri came back a little bit, but not to the extent before. And I just kind of looked at them and they were like, okay. And so the three-year-old started it, which was very cool. And I will call on Sue.
Thank you, Deborah. So I was calling in all the spiritual teams I could think of. And it kind of came to a stop, abrupt stop. And it was kind of like, start over. You're jumping the gun here. So I was envisioning what I call the vacuum of space, which is the whole universe. And it's inky black. And it's got all the universal laws in it. And I don't see the planet in it. It's just consciousness. There's nothing physical in it. And it's the unseen world. Okay, so I'm starting with that. And then I'm reminded of the chart that has all the frequencies on it, from a frequency of 20, which is shame, worthlessness, despair, hopelessness, to 400, which is reason, hope, and optimism. And all of that in between is the human consciousness. And then at 500, it's a spiritual consciousness, and the fear is gone, or it just seeps in once in a while. But basically, it's above duality, above hate, above anger, above fear, above everything. So 500 to 1,000 is different frequencies of empowerment. So then I was able to go back to the human collective consciousness and I was going to call back in the PTO, the tag, but what showed up was this great, big, huge vacuum cleaner. And it was a huge tunnel of energy, and it was coming down into the vacuum of space. And it was gently pulling the lower frequencies, the human consciousness, pulling it. And I again was going to bring in, but it's like, could you just take a step back and let us do our thing? And I went to sleep. And it was like, okay, we're just going to put you over here. So I just sort of went to sleep at that point. And then it was like, I woke up because it's like, wait a minute, I'm in the middle of a Zoom meeting and nobody was back yet. And so it was like, okay, so what's happening, guys? And I didn't get to see what was happening. But what I had put out into our Zoom meeting was the effects of trauma, the cause of trauma, how it changes the body, mind, and soul, how it affects and ripples out lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, how it builds upon each other, how it freezes parts of the brain, and how dysfunctional the person is because they are totally trapped in, well, human consciousness is fight or flight. That's what it is. But you add trauma, it's fight, flight, or freeze. And I have lived most of my life in that freeze part where I bring anything that appears to be of a threat to me or to someone I care about, or even someone I'm in the presence of, the brain will just shut down. But not always, because there's been times where there was a potential problem and I, without knowing it, just stepped up and stepped into it and changed it. But I put all of this into the vacuum of space today for this meeting, for Spirit to do the work of transformation is what it is. It's transformation. So what I saw, what I did get to start to see before they made me go to sleep was pulling the plugs of that dark energy, agendas, and dark agendas. And it's pulling them out, taking them out of our atmosphere and dissolving them. And then the smaller cords, the big plugs, the cords that are individual, start pulling those out and dissolving them so they can't come back. And then feeding into, not feeding into, but enhancing the qualities that we call love and above. So love, joy, peace, enlightenment, and that is not human love. That is unconditional love and acceptance. That is, there's a power in universal spiritual law that it is not in the human consciousness. It exceeds, it transcends human consciousness. And there is such an amazing power in that because it can be in a book. And that's why there are some books that touch our heart and soul. That's why there's some books someone can be in the presence of and feel a shift, because that energy is in the book. And it doesn't come from the human heart. It comes from the spiritual heart. So every time somebody writes a book that you are channeling from the higher dimensions, it's in the book, and all the other person has to do is be in the presence of the book, and they're going to feel the attraction. And it's fascinating how that kind of energy works. So my vacuum of space is still working on it. And what I find interesting is my vacuum of space keeps, this is the biggest I've seen it, where it was exceeded our universe. And the vacuum part of it just means there's motion, there's action. It means all the universal laws are in operation. It's not stagnant. There's no stagnant energy in the vacuum of space. So it's like the mind and heart of God. And it's like source in its completeness and fullness of. And then it's ongoing. It's just ongoing. So that's the part I got to see and experience today. And for now, I am complete. And Audrey, did you go?
Thank you, Sue. Oh boy, where to start? So, had a realization that a lot of men are coming into awareness and trying to balance the masculine and feminine. So that actually came up today, and I was like, I had contacted somebody to see if they were a man who was doing a group, and I hadn't gotten a response. It's like, that's because we're going to show you how. So a while back, let me just go back. I was shown how to remove, I labeled it as reptilian seed. They show me how to go into the brain in a certain part and remove it. And they said, well, it's kind of like that. And, I remember Sharon telling us how the outsiders implanted things within the gonads. And I'm like, okay, so you want me to go down there and dismantle, just to go down. And they said, no. They said, how to do this is you connect them to, you open up the crown, you connect to love and divine light, and you let the light come down into them, through them, connecting to the heart space. From the heart space, you connect to the vagus nerve. From the vagus nerve, it goes down into the prostate and the gonad area. And that light will go to the parts of the male anatomy, and it will start to soften it and start to shrink it. And then they will eventually be able to eradicate it that way, is what they guided me. So this will allow the male bodysuits to transmute parasites easier, is what I was told. And I'm complete.
So everybody's gone, correct? All right.
Have you've gone, Linda?
Nope.
What I thought.
I'm always in awe of the amazing experiences you guys bring back. So I'm still feeling kind of new to all of this. So this time, I was saying, I'm not sure how that became what I was saying, but I kept saying, show me, show me, show me. And what I was brought to is actually the location of where I did a beautiful circle of women this weekend. There were 12 women gathered, plus our staff. And this was an amazing home that was built into the hillside and had this incredible view. And I saw the women all circled around with this incredible sense of nature all around us. It isn't one of these, beautiful, they kept the nature's beauty there. And what I got, I didn't hear it, but I got it, is that this is the work we do. That in helping women, and this brings in the trauma stuff, heal themselves as well as be more in touch with their own creative uniqueness, is in fact healing backwards in time as well as forwards. And that this is the time that we are actually doing this, and not just women. It's just the work I was doing this weekend was, but there are men with this beautiful enriched heart energy. So it felt really uplifting. It's like, okay, it's really happening. We're really doing it, So just the sense that we're all healers, guardians, wisdom seekers, and peace bringers, that's who we are. And after that, I began to see a series of faces. It was kind of like this collage. Some would come forward and then they'd fade, but it was a collage of faces. Some of them looked very ancient, and it felt like, and it really was only a minute or two that happened, but it felt like the ancestors were showing their gratitude. That's how it felt. Yeah. As I am grateful to them, they are also grateful. Yeah. So that was my experience. And I just like to have us take a moment and just take in all the amazing things that we all saw, and just maybe feel some wonderful energy and gratitude about all of that. And just for a moment, just take it in. Sharon.
I'd like to just answer some of the questions brought up by Cinda and the vision of Audrey.
Great.
The deep six is a directive to activate the tag matrix protocol, which is like 13 pages long. And it also brings in the PTO to give them permission to start identifying and removing anything that is parasitic from the space. And so it does both, right? And I'm not sure exactly now how that if that's the answer that it's helpful, Cindy. You'll have to tell me that, because I forgot to put more notes on it. But the deep six is, according to law, one person in that moment who feels the request to activate is enough, right? And we've been living in survival, in which it's the pain, our emotional pain, our mental pain, our physical pain, our relationship pain. We have been living in a place where we haven't known how to get to the messages to heal deeply enough at just a twiggle. We've looked for outer signs. And so, like you said, these people look like they're doing really good, and they may very well be doing really, really good, but there is something in the unseen that hasn't manifested yet. And what we're getting to is closer and closer to the time, especially about those of us who are aware, can say, like, I don't know what that twiggle is. I'm not going to, and we don't have to wait for it to become, oh my gosh, I'm not going to change until I've hit rock bottom. That's old thinking. That's old survival. It was that way because we didn't have the tools to get to the answer. And so surviving until we got like our knees knocked out from under us was the only way we could get to some place to hold on. And so all of that is shifting. So I would say, whenever you feel absolutely activate, the deep six will activate, and up to 70, 80, 90% of the energies can be transformed by that individual's spiritual team who walk with them daily. So hope that answers. Mm-hmm. The other thing in relationship to the bodysuit of the male originally held literally two ownership contracts, like having two programs on the computer that says you're owned. At a soul level, we had already given our power away, so we were marked, so there was ownership there. And so in order to free one soul who could come into the female body and speak with authority, that contract had to be carried by another soul in a bodysuit. That is the bodysuit that we call male, was held in the gonads, has been used to manipulate and control. And as of like, I don't know, maybe about 3 years ago, we started working to eliminate, so much has been eliminated in the galactic worlds that the ownership marks contracts didn't have to follow us until like within the last 6 months. The ownership marks do not follow. There is no ownership marks. They don't exist. So in whatever way you feel to anchor that into the males in your life, the clients in your life, do it. Because however you're guided to do it is totally sufficient. The evolutionary blueprint, that when you're ready to download that, carries no ownership marks, absolutely none. But in the meantime, the cleanup is whatever you feel to do. No, there's no ownership marks coming from the galactic that's even there anymore. So whatever needs to collapse it for individuals, trust your guidance on that.
Wow. Thank you. Thank you all. So enjoy the Samhain, Day of the Dead, Thinning of the Veil. It's going to go on for a little bit longer, and we're dialed in.
Thank you, Linda, for bringing it.
I have a quick question to Sharon. So when she said about 6 months ago, there's no ownership marks from anybody on the planet, they're all gone from everybody.
Wow.
Not just the newborns.
No, not just the newborns. That doesn't mean that the mind memory, the
Right.
body memory has to be collapsed, or the scars
Right.
from it. There's still healing that needs to be done.
Right.
But as far as having those a constant from the galactic, they don't exist there anymore. There is no way. So no, they don't exist anymore. Healing scar from the scars, the storage, the patterns, the body memory, the brain memory. Yeah, but they'll collapse much more quickly because they're not coming from the galactic worlds as a constant.
Thank you.
It's good news.
Thank you, Linda, for hostess thing today.
Yeah, I have something to say too, because Deborah, since you just asked your question, I realized in that moment of panic of your story about the shooter in the mall, one right after the other, but both Macy's stores. I mean, how bizarre, two different locations. How bizarre for you that must have been, and how frightening. And I'm realizing a situation where I was witnessing something inappropriate, but wasn't in a position to be able to respond physically or do anything. And I immediately brought in the PTO and did a deep 6 right there physically in front of me, watching it. And it was really interesting how things just seemed to just calm down in the moment. I mean, nothing is violent, Deborah, or potentially as violent as what you're talking about. But like, road rage, where you sort of see cars chasing each other and sort of getting pissed off and flipping off. And I'm sort of pulled back in my own car, and I did a deep 6 and watched it just sort of take and transform in its place, where another car just takes an exit and another car, they slow down. I'm bringing this up because I think it would be really interesting and almost challenging for us to challenge us to experiment with it when something is happening directly in front of us, and then witness the results immediately. It's pretty crazy when you can have that happen.
It was interesting because it wasn't scary.
Mhm.
Because I immediately checked in and I heard it's not an active shooter. I mean, I got that yes, there's an incident, but it's not deadly. But I started doing Sharon's work and also my Ho'oponopono work, which I've done for 30 years. So it's kind of just automatic. And then just putting it on in the people around me and the guardian circle and the whole thing, and all the way out. And I kept being like, okay, I'm going to go this way, not that way, because then I could just very carefully say there's too many cars there. And if somebody has to escape, they're going to go that way. So I'm going to go this other way. And then getting around to the end of the parking lot and having 6 police cars and an ambulance between me and where anything would happen is like, you're protected. It's okay. They've got your front. They've got your back, whichever way you're turned. Yeah. And it wasn't. And that's what was amazing about it. And the more I think about it, it's like, oh, I should be afraid about this. I should be getting nervous. And I'm like, no, it's all okay. I don't know how far into the incident it was when I heard about it, because I was at one end of the mall and the food court's in the middle. So I don't know how much had transpired. And I don't know how much doing the work helped calm it down, or if it had already calmed down. I mean, I don't know any of that. But for me, I wasn't freaked out. And when the guy said, what's going on, I could think enough to say, not that I knew. I said, I heard, not that I'm trying to spread any disinformation, that there's a shooter in the mall, get out. Calmly, but, and the lady picked it up and said, there's the door, drop your stuff, it'll be here, leave. And it was all just very, and I could even stop and say to the lady who told me, thank you. And she was shocked that I would tell her. I said, thank you very much for letting me know. And she was kind of like, oh yeah, of course. But it was kind of amazing because I wasn't scared. But then when it came up the next day on my friend's post, I'm like, okay, this is just, I need to do more work on this because there's something that has come up twice in my universe with a mall and Macy's. I'm like, okay. So there's somehow connection to me on that I need to just deal with. But I agree with you. It's just very nice to do it and then watch it. So thank you.
Let me hop in here again, if it's okay. Our mission is to see what needs to be changed and then change it.
Mhm.
And so it's always been the case that seeds exist within the unconscious, what we might call unconscious, spiritual realms, unseen realms, whatever. There are seeds, wherever they came from, that every once in a while get activated and then they become, because that's the law, manifestation. What's not stay hidden, it will show itself in some kind of form. And so if you see or feel or observe something informed or even in energy that's just a little bit starting to form, take action on it, because that's the mission. And whatever it is that can be eliminated and transformed through your decree means that that energy of that seed is lessened, or maybe even entirely gone. There's a lessening of the energy when you act. And then if it submerges, it will pop up again if there's still energy there for it. So you don't have to, and you're not going to hurt anybody, and you don't have to decide what needs it, what doesn't need it, because the teams do. They don't know exactly what to do, and they're part of that plan too. So when it shows up, act it, because it lessens the size of the seed, it lessens the cause. For the last 10 days, I want to say this because I almost forgot. For the last 10 days, I put out an invitation to anyone who wanted to focus on trauma held in the unconscious. So this was the bigger picture. It's like what we did in the galactic worlds. We focused on the collective to impact the masses here on the planet. I mean, it had to be, not that it didn't impact galactic worlds, it certainly did. So now we're taking that same concept and we said, let's focus on the collective, into the collective mind of trauma, those who exert it, those who've experienced, those who are part of the out, who would add it. So we've been doing that for 10 days. Some of us have been reporting in on Slack every day, just what we did. So before the call, I wanted to find out from the tag teams, and that's a collective, the impact that has been made in a positive way within the galactic psyche. I mean, it's a psyche, right? And they said there's a 40% lessening of that storage because of the work you guys did. Now that's gonna make a difference, and we may not see it, but their individuals will feel it. So I think what we did was, I would call it a wonderful success. Thanks for those who participated.
So are we complete? All right, thank you, and enjoy the rest of this beautiful time.
Thank you, Linda. Beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you.